Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday on Gaming with ADHD. Today we are going to get back to our look at the Enterprise fleet for Dystopian Wars from Warcradle Studios. And this set was provided to me by them. They asked that I do at least a couple of videos talking about the set, but they did leave the actual content itself up to me. So keep in mind all of the opinions are my own for all the impressions about the models, but do take that with a grain of salt if that is something that you are concerned about. Now, before we get into it, do make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, as I am going to be working on painting up these ships and also learning the rules and playing some games. So if you'd like more Dystopian Wars content, I'd love for you to come along. Now, with that being said, I have done one video previously where we just unboxed the set itself, took a look at the sprues and the resin model, and in this video, I'm actually going to look at the models after they've been constructed, talk about my thoughts on how well the build process went, what I think of the final designs on the ships, and we'll go from there. Now, one thing I gotta say ahead of time is that I do like with this set that you get about 1,500 points worth of models depending on how you construct them. Now, that's going to be suitable for about a 4-foot by 4-foot playing area. And with that said, keep in mind that the choices I made in building this fleet are not necessarily the best choices. I am still new to it, and so I picked the ships that just appealed to me. Maybe a little more on the looks, but regardless, there are a lot of options for these ships, and you can go whatever direction you feel is appropriate for building out your own fleet. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started taking a look at these, and I will break down some of the point costs, why I made my choices, and we will go from there. So, all right, starting off, actually let me slide this a little bit, get some stuff out of the way so you can see a little bit better. So this is the contents of the box, all of it together. Now, point out a couple of things. The RC-52 Patriots, which are up here, I did not put them on their bases. They do come with clear flight stands, and I don't want to paint the flight stand, so I left them off, but we will still take a look at them up close. We also have the Akron observation rotors. Same deal with those. The SRS tokens have also not been placed on one of the bases yet, but we're going to get into that in a little bit as well. So, these are all the models. You're going to get 6 cruisers, the Enterprise heavy carrier, and then you're going to get 6 Farragut frigates as well. So let's zoom in here a little bit and actually look up close. And we are going to get stuff out of the way. All right, so first off, our Enterprise carrier. So this is right about 7 inches long, almost 3 inches wide. So if we move that up to the line, you're going to see it's about a little bit more than 2.5, about 2 3/4 when you include the slant deck, I believe is what they call it. They sculpted an SRS plane into the deck, so it is not removable. These rocket pods, the heavy rocket batteries, are removable. I will magnetize them eventually. For now, they're going to sit here, and when I pick it up, they're going to fall off. So overall, I really like the detail on this. It was a very simple build. All you had to do is glue this in and then glue the superstructure here. But overall, the actual detail itself is really good. I like the... I don't think crenellations is the right word, but the detail on the smokestacks back here, the detail on the windows. Let's try... There we go. That gets us a little better. The detail on the windows, detail on the piping. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap. Well, you can if the lighting is right. So there we go. That's better. So you can see a little bit of a gap between the superstructure and the deck. Basically, I tried to fill it in with gap filling glue. I think it'll clean up a lot better once I get the paint on it. You can see it a little bit there as well. So I'm going to have to go through and clean that up a little bit. I will be honest, I am not the most attentive at times to those particular details, but overall, it matches up okay. There's a little problem with this pipe here, but I think that can be easily masked, filed down, you know, something to make it look right. But overall, we've got little Union symbols here on the side. Another one over here. We've got additional batteries underneath the deck. So this ship is going to be pretty mean just on its own right. Got anchors up here in the front and duplicating it on the other side. We do have the paddle wheels. This big paddle wheel here in the back, I really do like the look of it. Makes me kind of wonder why they are running paddle wheels out on the open ocean. Doesn't seem like it would be very fast to do that, but it is what it is. So overall, I really like the Enterprise. I think it is, I mean, even though it's a big flat ship and, you know, they don't necessarily give you a whole lot to put on top of the deck, regardless, I think it still looks good and it'll paint up really well. All right. Now, for the cruisers, or actually I should start with this one. All right, so this is the Montgomery support ship. Now, I picked this because to run the actual Enterprise fleet, you must take a Montgomery. So it has a sort of flight deck, even though it does not actually launch SRS tokens. I've got a little bit of a battery there on the side. We've got the Union symbol there on the side. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this to focus. For some reason it's a little dark on my camera, but we've got some nice detail underneath there. We've got nice detail on the top. Again, these sort of spiked smokestacks that we saw on the Enterprise itself. But overall, this build wasn't too bad. It was a little bit awkward putting the bow together. It fits very cleanly. As you can see, there is a little bit of a gap, but nothing that'll be really noticed once it gets painted. So it kind of stayed together. Basically, I put a little glue on the two pieces, and it was able to actually just sit on the table while I was assembling it. So that was good. You know, the rest of it went together okay. The sides on this ship, these curved pieces underneath here, it all seemed a little fiddly. but overall it worked. And honestly, that's going to be the thing that pretty much comes back over and over with this particular fleet. They were a lot, I don't want to necessarily call them harder to assemble than the Koenig fleet, but they definitely weren't as easy as the Congo fleet. So there's that. But overall, not a bad little ship, the Montgomery. Like I said, you do have to take one of these as part of the Enterprise fleet, but it can be assigned as a companionship to the Enterprise itself. So, it does form up that unit. So you're not going to have just a solo ship out there floating by itself, because it does also require, or it doesn't have a squadron option on its own. Now, next for the, it was the, where's the name of it? Because I forget. This one, oh, the Union Frontline Squadrons. Okay, I am really bad at that, sorry. So for the Frontline Squadrons, again, I did not glue the heavy batteries in. We'll just take a look at these real quick. Not some bad detail on there. They look just kind of like single barrel main guns. I mean, obviously they are single barrel main guns, but that's kind of the only choice that you have, I believe. Nope, don't have the book. All right, so I went with these because they are the bigger ships. They have the guns here in the back. They do have the two main batteries. Again, you still have the paddle wheels like you have on all of the Union ships. I built 3 of these. They are all identical. And I went with these because what I've been hearing online is that you want the full squadrons. And so if I'm going to build one, might as well build all 3. If I pick up any extra sets, I will build some alternate options. But for now, I went with the Lexingtons. A lot of the same rules as far as the assembly. The bow had to glue together, put it on the ground, or on the table, and then this particular piece just fit that in. Basically, I just worked front to back to assemble it. Overall, it went together okay. I can see gaps, I can see errors, just things that I did that maybe didn't come through so great. But sometimes with the ADHD, I am just rushing to get it done. So I admit that that's probably my fault, but I think it'll hide pretty well with the paint. Overall, not a bad ship. And like I said, I've got 3 of those for the entire squadron. All right. Next, I went with the Roanoke strike carrier. Now, these I built 2 of. Reason I went with 2 of these instead of trying some of the other ship options is because there is a special rule for the Roanokes that if you take 2 of them, you can, for 20 points, you can take White Dove SRS squadrons, which allow you basically a Tesla cannon as part of those. Basically, it's a carrier ship. You can see the plane on the elevator there in the back. You can see it a little bit through here, but not very well. But again, it had the same kind of issues, but building it front to back, and then it's essentially hollow underneath, and you glue the flat top on, and it came out just fine. I didn't have any issues with the assembly. These were some of the later models that I put together, but overall, not a bad little ship. And between the 4 tokens that each of the Roanokes drop and the 10 tokens that the Enterprise drops every turn. I think I need more SRS tokens. I don't think I have enough. All right, so next we have the Farragut class frigates. Now, these are the only options that you have to build. There are no destroyers or other, small crafts. They can go in a squadron of 6 with a minimum of, I believe, 2. I will probably just run it as the squadron of 6 just so that it's maxed out. But overall, simple little ship to put together. Okay, now that I am seeing it, I remember. So this one was a little strange. You have this top deck right here, and then you have the superstructure. So the smokestacks, number one, do not put those on first. The reason being, this superstructure, let me get it closer and focus. All right, so you can see that line inside, but then it comes through, and let me grab a paintbrush to point with. So this piece here comes through. So what you actually have to do is take the piece, kind of turn it, stick it through the bottom, turn it around, and then it'll set in there, and it'll set fairly snug, but the diagrams and the instructions aren't the greatest, and so you kind of have to puzzle out how to put them together. It's a little awkward. It was a little strange, but once you figured it out, they just go together, not a problem. So just keep that in mind when you're assembling them. Again, not really a problem. They are cute little ships. Again, paddle wheels, they definitely keep that theme going. But yeah, so I've got 6 of those. All right, let's take a look at the automata. So they are basically identical. Okay, you can assemble them so that they are either standing or flying. So that'll give you a rough approximation of what it'll look like. I'm going to have all of mine flying. So if you'll notice, the arms are kind of outstretched so that they can aim at whatever they're at. You have 2 options. The electro cannons, which look like this, so sort of a Tesla coil kind of looking thing, or the magnetic Gatling guns, which you see on this guy. But otherwise, the models are exactly the same. They assemble the exact same way. You get 2 of them per support squadron sprue, so they go together pretty quickly. The next is the Akron observation rotors. For the 1800s, it is very impressive how quickly the technology has advanced to helicopter, hovercrafty kind of things. Now, I'm not sure where I'm going to put these yet, as most of the ship units seem to have them as an option to take. So I'll use them somewhere. I'm just not sure where yet. But they are single piece, nothing to assemble until you mount them on their flying stand. So, but I don't consider flying stands pieces. And then you have SRS tokens. These are pretty generic and pretty normal. All right, let's make a little bit more space on the table. Zoom out. One thing I do like to do is look at the sprues as far as how much material gets used. Now, these are kind of a mixed bag. So we're actually going to start with the Frontline Squadrons. So if you notice, 3 pieces. That's it. So out of the entire sprue, you're going to have 3 pieces that don't get used. That's fantastic. I mean, even with all of the different options that you have for the cruisers, you know, you're not wasting a lot of parts. It's just a little bit of reorganization. Boom, you're done. So I really, really like the Frontline Squadron sprues. Now, the Support Squadron is a different story. Now, keep in mind, I did build 2 carriers and the Montgomery. So, for the carriers, they're the exact same. It's this one here on the right. The carriers have quite a few more parts available. We've got some extra cannons. You get 2 sets of arms for the Patriots. You get different deck pieces depending on which support ship you're going to make. So there's quite a bit that gets left over if you're going to build the carriers. But even still, as you can see, a lot of the parts get used. I wish they had used more of the pieces, or given you ways to use more of the pieces. I probably should cut these out and save them for a bits box for this game. But we'll see. And then finally, the leftovers from the Montgomery. This feels like there's a lot less leftovers. You don't have, I mean, obviously you've got the flight deck, which isn't used on the Montgomery, but for the most part, a lot of the other parts do get used. So I'm not upset over the amount of leftover pieces. It just does feel like a lot. Actually, this is one that I will point out. The right here, these are actually the heads for the Patriot. So there's 4 on each sprue, which I actually don't mind because they are smaller than like your standard BB for like an air rifle, and they are not hard to lose. So the fact that they give you 4 of them, you know, they've already taken that into account. You may lose them, but there's enough there. It's not really a waste of plastic. It probably doesn't add really anything to the cost on these. And just make sure that you have all your parts. So I think that's pretty good. So that is the Enterprise fleet. Honestly, I'm really excited about this just because it's going to be a bigger fleet that I have to work with. On the previous fleets that Warcradle sent, you get 2 cruisers, a battleship, and a few support vessels, 2 to 4 support vessels. And, you know, so to have a bigger fleet like this, where you have an entire frigate squadron, you have, you know, a full heavy cruiser squadron, a couple of support ships, you know, you get a lot of options. So it's going to be interesting to actually work on painting these, especially with the fact that it's an Enterprise carrier. I mean, for the United States, Enterprise is a name that has just been around forever. You know, there's also the, you know, the connections to like to Star Trek, things like that. So this is going to be a fun paint for me, just to try some different things and have some fun with it. So let me know what you think. What did have you worked on any of the Union models before? Are you a Dystopian Wars player? Do these kinds of videos make you any more interested in checking the game out? If you are interested, do make sure you look in the description. I will have a link to Wayland Games where you can purchase this. Also, don't forget to check your local game store, you know, or the favorite place to shop, because if people don't know that you want to try out Dystopian Wars, they're not going to order it in anyways. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this. Warcradle is definitely putting out a lot of regular releases, a lot of fun releases, and I'm excited to see what's coming next. So thank you for watching. I do appreciate your time, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.